Ain't no shortcuts. Gonna just and drive.
So good evening, everyone. Welcome to the June 13th, second Thursday meeting of the Houston chapter of the Electric Vehicle Association. Welcome, everyone. Glad to see folks here in the room, and we've got folks online, including a couple of speakers. And it's just all exciting stuff happening today in the world of EVs. I've been reading some things over the past few days that are just really exciting. And so we can discuss some of those things at the end. But today we've got Casey from Evolve, and we want to have her talk. But first, I want to go through some things on a introductory PowerPoint here and just cover a few things. Electric school buses. So some of you may have been at the big event we had a couple months back, and there's some great folks we've been interacting with who have been involved in that promoting electric school buses, which of course we know helps all those young developing lungs not to have diesel particulate exhaust right there where they're inhaling the air. And so I think it's really a great place to put a lot of emphasis on. So Tuesday, June 18th at noon at the Jarvis Transportation Center up in Cypress, ride and drive electric school bus event and some tours. So here is a QR code. And for those in the room, it's on the table in the center. And so I'll also point out for folks in the room that there's a microphone there at the table in the center. When you're asking questions, please use that so folks online can hear it. So that's one thing coming up. And some other events is we have the Electrify Expo. So some folks have gone to some of those in the past. Those are always a lot of fun. This one's at the Austin Circuit of the Americas in November. So you might want to mark down those dates if you're in the Austin area. So yeah, and then here where we meet, we're always appreciative that TXRX Labs provides our meeting space here at no cost to us. So we like having that. And so they've got a woodshop group show. It says June 15th through August 18th. And you can see what it shows here, some different things that they have. Yeah, it's always fun to learn about what's happening here at TXRX. And here are some of the classes. All right. Yeah. So I'm always telling people they've got a lot of equipment here. And of course, to go along with that equipment, it's always helpful to have classes. And of course, for things that do require a certain amount of safety, they won't let you use the equipment until you're checked out safety-wise. But beyond that, of course, lots of 3D printing and things like that could be a lot of fun if you take a class in that. And events, we're always looking for speakers. So any friends, relatives, coworkers that have inside information, we'd always love to hear that. So you can email us that. And of course, the national organization, they do have dues, unlike our Houston chapter, who doesn't have any dues. We don't require folks to join the national, but we encourage them because there's lots of good stuff going on. I've been to the national meeting a couple of years ago. And here you can see a list of some of the other advantages if you do decide to join the national organization. Here in the room, we got a few paper copies of the EV1 sheet that lists current vehicles that are out there. If you've got neighbors that, you know, they see your car, might like it, but they want something different, bigger, smaller, whatever. It's always convenient. You can hand them one of those, or you can show them an electronic version of it. So that's on the national website. We also have some business cards. You can always take some of those and hand them out to folks. And we've got Nick here in the room. So yeah, if you want to come on up here, Nick, we'll turn it over to you. Folks can see the information about the dates there, but I'll let you go ahead here for 5-10 minutes, whatever you need, Nick.
Sure. Yeah, just a few minutes. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. Glad to be here. And for those of you who aren't in the building online, this is really a great space. I have not been here before, and I'm so glad to be here and so glad I made it in person. Like I said, I'm Nick Deutsch. I am the developer owner of Garage Ultimate in Friendswood. I'll tell you a little bit more about what we are in a minute, but the primary reason that I'm here is to extend an invitation for this Saturday. We are having Electrified, an EV car show at Garage Ultimate from 10 till noon. We'd love for you to come out, join our community, be part of our community. So we are I love community and love bringing people together. Built almost 100,000 square feet of industrial warehouse space that we've subdivided into individual spaces and then sold. So you can see some of the photos. Those are our buildings, and people buy these and build them out into shop spaces, man caves, she sheds, whatever you want to call it. And if you come out or if you've been out, it's a really nice facility, really nice grounds, but the real magic is truly the community. We love bringing our owners together, the broader community together. Really, it's primarily people who have an interest in the automotive space, and there's a wide range of automotive interests, but what we find is that most of the conversations involve, comparing V6s to flat sixes to straight sixes, and not 12-volt architectures versus 48-volt architectures. We'd like to change that. We would like to bring those communities together, and I can't do it by myself. I really need you. And so that's why we are doing this. The real vision, I'll tell you, is to have a large event that is more of a symposium, includes a car show component, but also speakers, engagement. But after all, it's a business, and I've got to make the business case for that. Saturday is hopefully going to make that business case. If we can get the interest to show that this is that the demand is there, that we can bring these communities together and have these discussions, then we can put money behind an event in September as well. That will be the larger event. But we'd love for you to come out on Saturday, like I say, 10 to noon. We like to talk shop, and I've been here for 10 minutes and I can already tell this is a group that I really like. You would love it out there. You would have so much to contribute, and I would love to get to know each of you more. So if you're able to make it Saturday, come on out. And I'm also happy to answer any questions either about the event or about our community.
I was just going to say, you at one point you told me that you had a Cybertruck over there. You rented one, right?
I did. I sure did.
And you said you got $1 million Lamborghini or something over there, and everybody's looking at the Cyber. Yeah.
So we do pretty regular events. We really do try to bring people out, bring people together. Last Friday night we had about 200 vehicles out there for a show. But we did one on a Saturday and just invited people out, and I rented a Cybertruck. This was really early on. It was the first one that I found on Turo, and I grabbed it and brought it out to the event. And truly, we have some really high dollar vehicles come out. Some of the rare Porsches and Lamborghinis and Ferraris and all of that out there. And all of the attention was on the Cybertruck. Everybody wanted to see it. We opened the doors. It was fantastic. And so as part of that, I wanted to gain some knowledge and be able to speak not as intelligently as you folks, but somewhat intelligently. The sixth grade smart, kind of thing. But I got to there, and we just had a great time. People are so interested. This group is very familiar, and you know all the technical details, but the wider automotive community doesn't know all of that, hasn't sat in a Cybertruck, hasn't gotten to test out any of this. I've gotten to launch in a lot of these vehicles, and I'll tell you, the entire automotive community ought to have that opportunity. It's quite an experience. Anything else?
Any questions for Nick?
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, appreciate it.
So this will be exciting on Saturday morning.
Yep.
And so, as we said, everyone's welcome. You can see what's happening out there. So and Nick, you've probably realized we've got quite a diversity of interests of the folks here. Some folks are ones that like their own homebrew electric vehicle, and others like the latest that's on the market, like the Cybertruck. Of course, there's folks that have Ford F-150 Lightnings and Mach-E's and Polestars and all kinds of other vehicles too. So we'll see what's there. And I already heard from Colin, he's going to be bringing his Roadster, so that'll be fun. Everybody always likes that too. And because now we've gotten into the age of EVs that are classic cars, which is great. Because I know a lot of folks that have, classic Mustangs, 65 or something like that. And of course, it's always great. We're always going to appreciate those. But of course, this club, we're looking at what's out there in the way of electrified, whether it's something that somebody's done themselves, converted a gasoline lawnmower to electric or something like that, because there's advantages there, or whether now that we can buy vehicles that are on the market from OEMs, original equipment manufacturers. A lot of folks go that route. And then, of course, we talk to people about how we make trips. I mean, I've taken mine from here to New Jersey and back, and here to Arizona and back with family members, and we just know how to do that. And so, as you say, there's a lot of folks that haven't been exposed to a lot of EVs. So this Saturday, maybe that'll be an opportunity to mix some folks that haven't seen EVs with other folks that love their EVs. And of course, we don't require anybody to have an EV. They can come in this club and talk to other folks and ask their questions and things like that all the time. So at the beginning, you saw our club's email address. So folks are always able to send in questions or comments or whatever. So very good, Nick. So we look forward to that. All right. And so we're going to be getting over to Jim at the end, and we're also going to have Bob from the Washington, D.C. chapter talk. But first, I'd like to get Casey online. So I see that you signed in here, Casey.
There we go.
All right.
You all got me?
Yeah, very good. Good to see you there, Casey. And so I will turn it over to you. So Colin, you said Casey's going to do his own.
Yeah, he should share.
You should share your slides.
You know what? You guys, I just want to speak a little bit about Evolve Houston here, if that's all right with you. Will that work okay?
Perfect.
Yeah, let's do that. We can do a little back and forth after that. So,
Okay.
thanks for having me, everybody. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. Had a chance to line something up to be there next time. So really looking forward to shaking some hands as I get there at the next meeting. But my name is Casey Brown. I'm the president and executive director of Evolve Houston. And I want to tell you a little bit about who Evolve Houston is today. I'll share a little bit about what we're doing, some of the core themes that we come across in this space and supporting electric vehicles and their growth in this region. And then happy to take some questions as well. So Evolve Houston, for those of you that don't know, is a nonprofit in town. We were started in the end of 2019. Our mission is to reduce greenhouse gases through the adoption of electric vehicles. So we work to accelerate that adoption. And our vision is that clean energy is accessible to all Houstonians. In 2019, we had a few organizations get together. Today we're powered by the University of Houston, the City of Houston, Shell, and Centerpoint. And so really valuable partners as sort of top line partners. And we've really grown a corporate membership base to support what we're doing. So that's quite exciting. I always like to mention to everybody that I talked to about Evolve Houston. Obviously, I mentioned we're a nonprofit. We're also nonpartisan. So it's really exciting to be in the space and be very data focused and not so much policy focused from our end. So brief overview there. I wanted to talk a little bit about what we see with EVs in the region. And so where are EVs going is kind of that question. And we've seen a pretty significant growth curve in Houston in the last couple of years. And so at the end of last year, we measure full battery electric vehicles, right? So that might be a Tesla or an equivalent. We measure plug-in hybrid vehicles, and we also measure hybrid electric vehicles. And so through the end of 2023, 14% of our new vehicles sold were some form of an electric vehicle, and we qualify those as that form. You're looking at about a little over 7% being the plug-in electric vehicles. And so that's quite exciting. This region has maintained a lot of momentum, but there's a lot of opportunity here. So we have some zip codes that have upwards of 30 or more % of their new vehicles being registered as EVs, which is really quite exciting. And we have some that still haven't registered any, so some at zero. So very wide bell curve associated with the region. A lot of different demographics and opportunity there. But a very exciting space to be in right here in the energy capital of the world. The next kind of thing I wanted to touch on just briefly as we start to get a flavor of what Evolve Houston does and measures our kind of market theme. So when we started, it was very awareness and availability. And I think as we go through the Houston Auto Show sponsorships that we've done, we're starting to see that Houstonians know what an electric vehicle is, which is really exciting. Now it's time to put your hands on one and touch one and ride one, which is still quite low percentage. And we really work hard to make sure that people get those opportunities. But really the themes today hover around infrastructure, and there's a lot of different kind of subtopics within that. Energy management is a really big theme that we see in the space. Customer experience is a theme. Many of you in the room and on the phone call here will have some story of a good experience and a challenging experience, which is quite common. And profitability. A lot of corporations are very interested in the profitability that this space creates as this ramps up. And so those four themes are really what you see Evolve Houston start to center around this year, growing forward into the next couple of years as we help usher folks into their first experience with an electric vehicle. And that's really where we focus. You know, we have some great partners that have owned electric vehicles for as long as they've been around, but we're also, we aim to be an open book and an opportunity for the curious folks to come in and learn more about them. You know, when you see our website, when you see us set up at a booth, and we very intentionally set it up in such a way that you don't have to know anything about electric vehicles. You can come and be curious and ask questions and learn more about them. So that's exciting. I'm going to touch on a couple of the things that we do and how we execute some of that. I mentioned that we're the presenting sponsor of the Houston Auto Show. We've done that for 2 years now. We'll do it again next year. And I certainly look forward to more years to come. That's been a great experience for us. You know, we get a chance to interact with a lot of the local dealers and really get to sit down with them and talk to them about electric vehicles and in some cases give them their first ride in an electric vehicle. But we also get to interact with Houstonians, and I think that's quite important when we do that. And one of the things that I'm very proud of that we put on at the auto show is a test drive. So you call it a ride and drive, a demo drive, test drive, whatever you want to call it. We bring electric vehicles out for people to get in and drive themselves. In some cases, they choose to ride in them, but you know, those are the experiences that really kind of bring it back to motivation for me. It's just really exciting to think back to the first couple of times that we talked about accelerating in these things that I got to accelerate in an electric vehicle or what it felt like to be so silent. And it's fun to interact with people as they go into them and then as they get out of them. So we're really excited to put on those experiences for Houstonians. You'll see that happen at a variety of events that we attend. We like to bring electric cars. We like to trucks too, so electric vehicles. We like to bring those to the events and let people touch and feel and become acclimated with the technology. A couple of things that we do outside of test drives, you know, we really like to make sure that Houston gets a chance to be exposed to the technology in other ways as well. So whether that's delivery services, whether that's a rideshare program, those are different types of things that we'll do with EV technology to start to solve challenges. So recently we launched, actually we're coming up on a year now, with a program that we launched 2 years ago that really focuses on the equitable access to EV technology. And so, you know, it's quite a challenge to start that, right? And you get a lot of folks that come raise their eyebrow to you and put their hand on your shoulder and tell you that you should not put a Tesla supercharging station into one of these communities. And while they kind of give you a bit of the reasoning why, you know, for us, it's all about making sure that everybody in Houston has access to these technologies. So whether it's a charging station or whether it's a delivery service or a rideshare program, you know, really important for us to make sure that Houstonians get that. So I kind of want to round that into saying, you know, coming up in the middle of this month here, next week, the end of next week, we have a rideshare program that we put on that came from a very small grant a year ago, and it'll be 1 year of continuous service. We've doubled the size of it. It's a no-cost, all-electric micro transit, huge mouthful. I figured kind of the technical piece would be fun here, but service that is offered in Third Ward and Second Ward right now. And we have just been nose to the grindstone in an opportunity to scale this. So as those of you that watch Evolve Houston in the news, hopefully there's some exciting stuff right around the corner that you'll get a chance to see. But this program has just been tremendous, and we've really given a lot of folks access to EV technology, and it's making an ends to or meeting ends for them by using an electric vehicle. And I think part of that is also setting the trend and demonstrating that electric fleets are doable, and there's great things and experiences and lessons learned that we've captured that we can combine with some of our corporate partners and fleets as well. With that, I'll kind of ease up a little bit. If there's any questions about Evolve Houston that anyone may have for me that I can help answer, before I stop talking, I would certainly encourage everyone to take an opportunity to check out our website and check out our newsletter as well. Really exciting stuff, and you can always ask questions through those channels as well if it doesn't pop to your mind right now.
That's great info. And yeah, I love seeing all the things that come up in the newsletter. First, I'd just like to say there's the chat for folks online. So if you have questions and you don't want to just verbalize it, you can go ahead and do that. And we'll ask questions for folks in the room. As I said, there's a microphone that's available there. So
I'd like to hear a little more about your rideshare. I'm actually working with a new company that's bringing a better paying service to Houston, and I'd love to know more about the EV and what you're doing with the rideshare.
Yeah, sure. So this rideshare program was kicked off, like I said, in an equity grant that we issued. We've had a chance to dive deep into community engagement to discover a few tweaks to the program to improve it. Today, we use the vehicle we use is a GEM E6 made by Polaris, and that company's been sold a time or two since. And so it's a 6-passenger, it's a small electric vehicle, it's very narrow. We specifically picked that vehicle to stand out. I get, especially when the service launched, actually, I get people would email me these pictures. They would look me up online from our Evolve logo on it and ask me, what is this thing? And it was a great conversation starter. And we love displaying on the side that it's 100% electric. A great intra-community and first and last mile solution. And what the community came to us in Third Ward with this project to talk to us about was meeting the needs of getting to and from these essential destinations. So whether that is a pharmacy or HEB or the bus stop, that was a barrier to transportation for this community. And we started collecting data throughout that and started sharing that data. And it's since been funded for 11 more months. And again, we're coming up on 1 year of service, and there's hopefully some really exciting news right around the corner with that. So we're really proud of that program and the value it delivers. I'll say one more thing about it. We deliver about 2,000 rides, trips a month right now to about 2,500, almost 3,000 passengers. So it's quite a bit in there that happens. And you think that all of those folks are getting a chance to step inside of an EV, and many of them for the first time when you look at Houston statistically. So we're happy to be somebody's first EV ride.
and it's great to hear about Houstonians helping fellow Houstonians. I mean, as you say, last mile and so forth, getting to a pharmacy. I mean, that's so important for so many folks, and it's great that it's being shared, the capabilities, and in this case happens to be with electric vehicles. Yeah,
That's right. Yeah,
Do you charge for the service?
We do not. Nope. We cover the cost of the service. As you see it grow, we will continue to aim to cover the cost of the service as well. So it's a ride. We use a ride hail app. So for those of you that have used a very common ride hail app, we don't use that one, but very similar setup to that. We come pick our customers up, our riders, at their doorstep, and we take them to any location within the service area. And today that service is offered again in Third Ward and in Second Ward as well.
very good. So another question coming up here.
So my question about the microtransit is, had that not been there, what are the 2 leading ways that the people would have reached their destination?
Yeah, we actually run a bit of a survey. Oh, There we go. We actually ran a little bit of a survey there. One of our concerns when we offered this service was that we'd be cannibalizing another service. Many of our passengers will talk about walking. We've had a lot of great interviews about folks having to walk to a bus stop and then take the bus down to the to one end of town or one end of the community to go get groceries, for example, or go to a pharmacy or some sort of medical center. So walking was most common. When you start looking at other modes of, there wasn't a lot of biking that we get from that. Sorry, walking to the bus. I want to be clear about that. Walking from one end to Third Ward to HEB would be quite a challenge in the middle of the day. So,
Quick follow-up.
Mhm.
Would these people have been able, healthy enough, let's say, to ride a scooter or maybe an electric bike? That those seem like competing services, especially on the one-on-one kind of arrangements.
Yeah, absolutely. This project initially launched to be focused for senior living. And as we did some community engagement, I really take that as like a voice of the customer to identify some of the needs. That's when we branched out. The average age today is 35 years old. We get a very high demand across the board. So certainly some of our riders are more than capable of taking other modes of transportation. Yeah.
Didn't you also have a fleet program? You had an event down at the Dome where you were showing potential commercial users.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So we do a fleet study service that we've done in the past. We take a look at some fleets have a lot of commercial stuff and sort of like heavy duty stuff, and some are a lot of light duty fleets. So we do offer a fleet study service. We bring in a couple partners. We analyze a client's fleet. The way that we've changed that here recently is we bring that client in, and we like to use the University of Houston, and we'll sit down and go over those results. And Evolve Houston, one of the ways that we want to accelerate those connections is by bringing businesses in that they can meet and help solve their challenges or identify those opportunities to electrify. When we get into these fleet discussions, it's a really interesting space to be in. Energy management's a huge topic there. These fleets that we talk to, their fleet's not their core business, and it's really interesting to sit down with some of the leaders that are making these decisions and help them walk through the details of converting a fleet to electric. And there's a few that you start to see a few barriers. In the past, we would create these reports, and they'd be great reports and they wouldn't really go very far. And so we've really taken some initiative to lead the horse to water, so to speak, in some of these, and some exciting opportunity with fleet conversion around that.
Great, great. So folks online, any?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, so how involved are you in charging infrastructure? How involved, no pun intended, is involved in the charging infrastructure?
We've evolved to become even more involved. Yeah, we get involved in a lot of infrastructure discussion. When you look at Evolve Houston, one of the things that I want to make sure that from an impact standpoint is that we're able to interact with a lot of different people, whether they represent an organization, a corporation, or themselves as residents. And so we don't deep dive into any single infrastructure deal. We typically bring in a lot of our members or organizations that we're aware of who can help solve some of those deep dive questions and problems. You'll see high level studies that really initiate the discussion from us, and then we'll follow those discussions along as well, if that makes sense. If does that answer your question, or to take that in completely different direction?
No, I'll probably take you offline and kind of send you a message to get more in depth in that and see what kind of things you're working on. Because infrastructure, to take the next phase or to take the next step in EV adoption, we've got to get to the people that live in multifamily units and they don't have a garage to put a charging station in. And so we've got to begin to understand how to get them the opportunity to charge, whether it's at work or at their apartment complex or whatever. So I'll send you a message and kind of get offline with you about that.
Yeah, that's perfect. I do want to highlight, at Evolve, we kind of look at near term, long term, and people and products, and those long term pieces that are so important for this process is infrastructure and workforce. And so we spend a lot of time every day focused on those topics to prepare the region for that. And within that infrastructure theme, we will spend a lot of time. We have and we will continue to spend time in those subtopics of workplace charging, multifamily charging, that you've specifically mentioned. So we're actually hosting a couple opportunities for experts to convene here towards the end of the year. And those two topics are on our schedule, and we're excited to get experienced landowners, folks that are in that infrastructure space and across the sector together to help create a publication that we'll share. So thanks for asking that question, and certainly follow up.
See the chat.
Yes, I was going to bring up that Jim Tucker typed into the chat a comment. If your service area expands beyond the third ward, many new Houstonians refugees live in Southwest Houston, and many of their support services, clinics, agencies, etc., are in that area, but not always via good sidewalks. And if in poor health, the summer heat is dangerous to them. It would be a useful area to expand into and potentially grant supported.
Yeah, Jim, thanks for this comment. This is something you are tracking right on where we're at. And so I would say hopefully you guys see some news about Evolve Houston as we round out the month and start next month. That's about the time frame that I would expect. This could be a little bit longer, but what you've touched on is 100% it. Third Ward is such a small service area. When we look at those, you're talking somewhere between 3 and 4 square miles. That's quite small. And same thing with Second Ward. And so this application has gone through a lot of iterations. We've collected a lot of feedback, and we've seen a lot of alignment with regional transportation. And so kind of leaving everyone hanging on a hook. That's a great observation, and we've certainly recognized that, and we're excited to grow into some of these spaces to provide the service.
Good. So another.
You have a micro grant program. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, our micro grant program, we call it our e-mobility micro grant initiative, and that really that started our equity program 2 years ago. This rideshare topic that we're talking about, and I'm really excited about, that came from that. That was one of our first round grant award winners that we ended up really doing a lot of community feedback and a couple tweaks to, and extending that. So that program is intended for underserved communities to apply for grant funds to us. We want to use EV technology in some way. So it's not a very tight limit. If you can be creative and think of using electric vehicle technology to solve a problem, we want you to apply for the grant. It's open to residents, it's open to nonprofits, it's open to for-profit. All of those classes or organizations and people have won grants in the past. We just got done with our second round of grant award winners, and we will start taking applications for round 3 as we near the end of summer. So we're really excited about that. I spent some time this week here speaking with some of our major funders for that, and they've just been so pleased with how that program's gone as well. So it's really about granting capital into community-based ideas, and fundamentally for us, we're recognizing that those are closest to the challenge, or closest to the solution. And so we've put together a community-focused, community-first grant program. Those grants come in, we select community leaders to review those grants and put them in rank order, and then we work to ensure that the capital comes from these corporations, and start to waterfall that down the list. And then we really work closely with these grant award winners, not just to help them reach success, but also to highlight the good work that they're doing. Many of these projects are really creative and projects that certainly deserve to be highlighted, and there's people, I can't say plowing snow, it's because it's Houston, it's too hot here, but there's people that are breaking new ground in this space, and they're using this technology to solve a lot of challenges in our underserved communities, and we're really proud to be part of that.
Great. Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm curious about the micro mobility solution. Literally today, I was just asked by a new EV driver, what do you recommend for an EV SE? Obviously, a lot of people want to charge their vehicles overnight, preferably at home. I'm assuming that your GEM has a home base where overnight is probably going to charge. Having said that, I'm wondering, does your vehicle charge more than once daily? And if it gets back to the home base and I don't know, maybe the cable's worn out, do you have a plan B just in case for them to charge?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So we do. So today, they serve their entire service period on a single charge. We hope to extend that soon. That will require a quick plug-in over a lunch break for this particular vehicle. There's some exciting things around that vehicle space. It's not a very common vehicle class. That I've had a chance to engage with some significant companies about their version of something like this. So it's not all about just the GEM E6, but I think that particular model has done a great job for us in starting it out, and we'll continue to work with it. We do have some backup equipment should we have an issue, and we always do hold what we call spares. So a few spare vehicles should we have an issue with something overnight. Most of it, though, it'll charge. So this recent derecho that came through, which was my opportunity to learn what a derecho was, our vehicles did a really good job charging we got a pretty high state of charge out of all of them, and I think we ended up starting the day a little bit late, but served pretty close to the full time there. And then we were able to come back and access. We got lucky that the place that we park at did have power. So
I'll just think of other possible vehicles, and something I mentioned sometimes is how there's a great used EV market nowadays. That wasn't true a few years back, and things like the Nissan Leaf, which those early ones aren't really suited for the long distance driving that I mentioned earlier, but they're great for city driving, and that might cover a whole day with a full charge on a used Leaf. So you might expand to other types of vehicles too.
yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So, and for folks in the room, our Vice President, Robert, thank you very much. He's waving over there for folks in the room who are new. Brought the snacks and bottled water that our club provides. So feel free for folks in the room. For folks who are online, sorry, I can't get those snacks through the wires yet, but hopefully that'll encourage folks to come in person. And Casey, of course, we are looking forward to seeing you in person when you're not presenting in future months. And you, both some of our regular members and new folks. Welcome to the new folks in the room. Of course, we hope that you return again and again, and then contribute as you feel, because yeah, it's great contributing questions as well as knowledge from people who've been playing with EVs for a long time. We do both. So and again, in the chat, anybody online who'd like to throw anything in the chat there's some folks who are quiet online, but if you just want to type something, that's fine too. And the other interesting things for folks that are here, the location here, TXRX at the East End Makers Hubs, has a couple of cats that wander around here too. So you might have noticed one of the folks relaxing on the couch, typing on a laptop, had a cat keeping him company there. So it's all kinds of things going on here. But of course, great equipment to rent and stuff like that, as we were telling Nick about, since he's here for the first time at this location. So good. More questions for Casey? Because if you look at the website, it's just amazing all the things that Evolve has got their finger into. I've been going to car shows since I was young, and of course, here in Houston, the car show is put on by the Dealers Association. So it's kind of an old story that the dealers liked selling the kinds of cars they were used to. They didn't warm up to EVs for quite a while, but now thanks to Evolve for getting EVs into the car show, which, as I said, here in Houston, run by the Dealers Association, I think that's really turned things around. And we see all the major car makers now wanting to electrify their cars. So whether it be full battery electric or plug-in hybrid EVs, both ways. I mean, some people don't like the idea of a plug-in hybrid EV, and other folks say, hey, when we have constrained battery building capabilities around the world, you can build 10 plug-in electric vehicles with the same number of battery cells as one full battery electric vehicle. And that can mean you've got 9 more people getting an electrified vehicle. And of course, in the morning, you always start out a PHEV driving it electric. And then only if you're happen to go far enough that day do you start getting into burning gasoline. So I particularly like them, but of course we can always have that discussion. It's always nice to get different people's points of view. So glad you brought up PHEVs, Casey. Other points that you wanted to bring out, Casey?
No, I just want to thank everyone for having me today. I hope to see and meet all of you next time that you guys meet. Looking forward to being there in person and shaking some hands. And feel free to send questions to me. We're always open to folks that want to come join us at events. Come and have fun with us. Check out our website. You get a chance to follow us on social media to find out the events that we're going to. Reach out directly and come out. It's a ton of fun to talk to people about it. You bring your EV, come stand by one of ours. Help show people what it looks like when you open a hood and there's a big spot for a huge bag there instead of an engine. It's really fun to interact with Houstonians, and I would say, more than anything, people are really interested now. It's not it's a different discussion than what it was several years ago, and it's just really exciting to see. So we're really proud of that.
Yeah, and those front trunks, it can be amazing. Yeah, they can be different. I mean, there's the folks that like using them as coolers and others that like using them as a seat. So I see that Ken here sent a message in the chat just to me, but he's asking in general, is there an intersection between the communities that can be served by Zip cars and those that might be served by an Evolve EV? So if you're familiar with Zip cars.
Yeah, so I want to answer this in a bit of a generic way, not to take away from the question, but when we look at this, when we look across Houston, and the information that we've collected with these vehicles, there's a tremendous amount of communities that this can serve, and I want to highlight, while we've started in transportation dependent communities, and this provides an extreme amount of value. There's a lot of communities that might be considered transportation choice communities that this has shown a lot of exciting interest in as well. And again, it's a great opportunity for somebody for their very first time to sit in an electric vehicle. And so we're solving these transportation challenges with this vehicle. We're making it convenient, reliable, and safe in these cases. We're giving people access to EV technology, and we're doing it all while keeping our air just a little bit cleaner. So that's what we're really proud of. Yeah.
Well, I guess really what I'm thinking of is that for an electric vehicle, the return on capital, if you're going to rent this out, is lower than what you might have with a conventional vehicle of similar trim, right? EVs are expensive, and and so however, the operating cost of an EV is substantially less than that of a conventional vehicle. And what I'm wondering is, do the economics of sort of short-term rentals, which is what Zipcar is, lend themselves to the sort of capital-intensive but low incremental cost model of an EV?
Can say that last part one more time? Sorry, you're saying.
Does an incremental rental model, which is what Zipcar is, I need a car for a day. I'm going to go to the doctor. I'm going to go grocery shopping. I'm going to go to Galveston. I don't need to own a car, but I want one this weekend. Right? Do those short-term rental demands align with the sort of costs or the opportunity of a capital-intensive but low operating cost EV?
Yeah, so the key with our service that I would highlight is it's a high volume service. I do want to back up just a second. Yeah, I had a chance to work quite closely with some executives with some rental car agencies. And, in many cases, while the sticker price of the vehicle may be a bit challenging, these vehicles, from a business standpoint for them, actually create quite high return on capital because of their. I actually had the CEO of Hertz tell me this. The parts that are put into the EVs that they purchased at the time, and this was their former CEO. So, those parts tend to be a bit more robust. Their OpEx model is significantly lower with their EVs, and so they really saw those as business advantages throughout kind of a rental market. But I don't know enough about the Zipcar model and the Zipcar demand in some of these spaces, Ken. What we really focus on with our vehicles is the high volume. And so our trips are very quite short. It's about getting a lot of people to and from where they need to go. When you look at first and last mile and you look at intra-community solutions, that's really the niche that we sit in to operate. So I know that's not maybe as specific as comparing it to Zipcar, but I'd just highlight that there's probably two things. I'm probably not familiar enough with the Zipcar model to really talk in depth from a business kind of NPV perspective on. And I would view what we do to be quite different in many cases. Yeah.
And that's good to differentiate those because, in so many cases, people are thinking, like rental and certain costs and so forth. But literally, when you want to go just that last mile to the pharmacy, because it's just Houston weather and the person just can't get out and walk successfully that far. It's great that because obviously wouldn't pay to rent a $45 a day car and then you can't get to where the rental car is at because that's even farther than the pharmacy. And so, addressing different needs. And the fact that you can do it with grants such that you can provide the service to folks that need it. Again, this is Houston and there's weather times that it's just, that's the thing that people need. Even if they're taking a bus close to where they need to go, it's not close enough. And
that's exactly right.
Yeah. And the economics of things when it's just so short, that's what hurts the economics of just a regular rental. It's fantastic all the things that Evolve has done, and so you're probably familiar with Chris George, who's
you guys had a chance to meet Chris.
we
is that right?
dealt with Chris over years, but we also had him as a speaker not long ago, and so it's great to catch up with him and. So I appreciate him giving me your name so that you could come to us tonight. So
well, Chris, Chris started leading Evolve Houston, and so it's an honor to kind of carry that torch from Chris as he's moved into his new role, and he set a great foundation for this organization, and I hope to leave a continued fingerprint on it. I love what I'm doing. My story of getting here, is kind of interesting and. But I love what I'm doing, and we're going to continue to do what we're doing today, and remain remain on the event horizon of this topic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as I said at the beginning, Houstonians taking care of Houstonians. That's
right. Yeah.
So, because sometimes you just we watch what's happening around the world, which of course is also interesting. But just getting down to the neighborhood level is just so important because every person's a person when it comes down to it. So
that's 100%. I tell people all the time. I kind of leave you with that is we have so much more in common. When you go to any community in Houston, you shake someone's hand, you've got so much more in common with them than you are different. And at the end of the day, everybody's I'll hark back to Lou Holtz. We all put our pants on the same way. Nobody hovers to put their pants on. So. It's an honor to really work hard and help Houstonians and form community. And when we look at a lot of these news topics, it's it gets quite intense sometimes looking on your iPhone at the next headline, but when you really get out in the community and shake hands with people, I mean, there's a lot of appreciation for fellow Houstonians. I think that's something that this area does quite well, and they love interacting and seeing new technology. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of warm people that will laugh and can't believe it's all electric, ask you questions about how it works, that will look underneath of it together. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And as I mentioned at the very beginning of the intro with the electric school bus project, I mean, helping those really young Houstonians that may never experience diesel buses blowing exhaust in their faces because we're electrifying so quickly, which is great. So any other questions in the room or online for Casey? So as I said, Casey, we're looking forward to seeing you here. You're welcome every month to come out and talk to folks. And if you have technology questions, and you might talk to some of the folks here, because some folks are really heavy into the technology, and that's a good thing. And others just want vehicles that go.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, please, Casey, keep listening, because Bob and then Jim have some interesting things to say too. So Bob, great to, yeah, with your camera on or off, Casey. So we understand how that is. That's the modern way to take part. Don't have to worry about if you're run your hand through your hair or something like that if you're on camera. But so Bob, yeah, over there on the East Coast, of course, I read some of the things about the Richmond, Virginia folks, so south of DC, and
Right.
a lot of great activity down there. And so great to hear what's going on with you in Maryland and DC.
Okay, I mean, so one of the things that I'm working on, maybe I'll start with that. It's more, it's really something that our chapter is doing, trying to move it over to the EVA side. So I guess I'll share a screen, share my screen.
Yes, please. Okay, we see it coming up. Okay. There
You
it
see
is.
that all right?
Yes, we see the one pager. Yeah.
One pager, right? So first I want to talk about the EVA data team. So you're familiar with I was glad you showed the one pager. So it's basically, it's a one page front and back that has the EV name, price, miles, and a picture.
Mhm.
And this is handed out right in front of for a Drive Electric Earth month and National Drive Electric Week. These are sent out. Do you guys get them too as city captains?
Yes, exactly. Yep. We've had them at our events.
And also we get these ones from Plug-in America.
Haven't seen that one recently. That's great that Plug-in America does that too.
So their Plug-in America is is one folded in half. So it's electric vehicles, and then they have the plug-in hybrids that you're talking about.
Great, yeah.
Well, so in our chapter, we have this this is our info page, and we started making these sheets a long time ago from the archive. Here's a picture of our 2012.
Oh, that goes back a ways. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we only had 13.
Yeah, Steve in our club here's got one of those. He brings it out once in a while.
Right, and back then we had the old picture of what PlugShare looked like back in the day. So now as time goes on, this is what our new one looks like. Our 2004. So we've been putting these together, since, well, I guess for the last 12 years. And we normally put these sheets out as well as the one sheet. We find that one difference, this one's really meant for us to be talking to somebody. So a lot of times people have come up to us and say they don't want an EV because of the cost. So one of our members said, okay, we're going to put this average line in here. So we have this yellow line, it's the average cost of an EV, and all the ones on top are cheaper. and then all the ones below are the more expensive ones.
Mhm.
And ours is also just 2 sheets, where the back has the more expensive ones and then the special ones, trucks and large vehicles. So we've talked to Aaron Choate a lot. I think he's the one who puts the one sheet together.
Mhm.
And we're talking about combining forces so that he doesn't have to do the research and we have to do the research to figure out what to put here. Our particular sheet now has 70 cars, and that's surprising to a lot of people now. We put out both the one sheet and this. Some people, if they've never looked at EVs before, I think they'd rather look at the one sheet because it's a little simpler. But we also get, I'd say about 20% of the people who come up to us, they already have an EV. A lot of times they like to find their EV, so they look through the sheet and they'll say, "Oh yeah, I have like a Lyric or something. That's my car." And they'll look at it and they'll nod their head. But then a lot of times we'll give them 3 or 4 of these sheets and say, "Yeah, sir, when you're talking to your friends, why don't you take some of these sheets and pass them out and explain EVs for them? Maybe they're ready, for their next car."
Mhm.
So that takes us to gathering the data. So gathering the data, we have this spreadsheet. This is the spreadsheet, and I actually just sent a text with the link. So this is a spreadsheet that you guys can also look at. If you ever find any mistakes, let us know. So in column B we have the curators. So we have all the different curators who put this together as of March. So this was put together for Drive Electric Earth Month. These are all the battery electric ones. We have a little bit more information than the one sheet. The total battery size, I guess the range they have, but how many miles you can go, how long it takes to charge the car, when it's available. And we have also for plug-in hybrid, we also gather that information.
Fantastic.
We have the motorcycles. The motorcycles are probably not really complete, but we have a couple electric motorcycle drivers, and we
Mhm.
did have motorcycles on until they didn't fit anymore. We ran out of space on the on this one. By
Gotcha.
the way, we do keep cars like Aptera and some other ones that aren't out yet, or the Canoe or the ID Buzz, just to get people's interest. They're just walking by and they look at it and they'll pick it up because they see, especially the Aptera, they ask, "What is this?"
Yeah, absolutely. Got to point people toward the future, where we're going. Yeah.
So now what we're trying to do is, instead of doing this once or twice a year, we're trying to move into a new program where we keep this updated permanently. Like every month, we're trying to find people who will take on a manufacturer. Like for example, Wiley said he'd step up again and do Porsche. He's in our chapter. He came from California, but we don't necessarily have people like Scott. He did 5 different ones. So we're trying to find other people to take over some manufacturers. We got the data done already. It doesn't take too long to update it. We're hoping to find some people from different chapters to volunteer to be what we call curators. And we used to have the plug-in hybrid one, but this back in the beginning we had the plug-in hybrids until about 3 years ago when they wouldn't fit anymore. But using a spreadsheet and just kind of saving it, taking some columns away, we were able to make a cheap and dirty plug-in hybrid version that is also just 2 sheets. It just has the same information, just cut and pasted this in. When people come to us, sometimes they'll actually ask, do you have anything for plug-in hybrids? And we just have this at the bottom of the pile because it doesn't look that great, but we can hand it to them and it has the information that they're looking for often.
Yeah, I think more and more folks are interested in the plug-in hybrids as a way to dip their toe in the water.
Yeah, it seems like about a third of all the cars, a third to a half, are still plug-in hybrids.
Really, a third to a half. Okay.
So then, just for interest, there's a person who took the data from what Aaron showed.
Mhm.
She was able to put together this, as a student project, she was able to put together this website that shows like whatever, the price and how far cars go. And you can look and see what the different cars are. I don't know if anyone's seen this before. Apparently, she's from Texas.
Okay. Now, I haven't seen that particular chart, but that's great to have that data. Yeah.
Yeah,
There
so
it is, yeah.
this I'm showing this only as an example. If we collect data, these are the kinds of things that other people could do. So while one group collects the data, another group can take that data and show it in different ways. In the spreadsheet, I actually linked to this. So in the I sent you the link to the spreadsheet, and over on the instructions page, this links to the different, I think, where is that? Somewhere in here we have, I linked to that right here.
Okay.
Under examples on line 55, if you're interested, that's where you can find that this particular display. I think it was done as a student project only.
Mhm.
And another example is Oregon. So this is from the Oregon EVA. So
Okay.
they have, what they've done is they organize their data by sales. So Tesla Model Y had the most sales in 2023, so that's first, second, all the way down, and then they have their own online version that's in the order of how popular the cars are.
Mhm.
And what's also interesting, if you click on one of them, it gives you a full size, a full page.
Wow. Yeah, slick as somebody here in the room said. Yeah, I love it.
And I asked the guy who put this together. I mean, I thought it'd be kind of interesting to have something like this that you could print out and put on your car, you know, where people could look at it, maybe with a QR code. He said that wasn't really what this was, why they made it, but it is kind of interesting. Just another kind of example of what you might be able to do with this kind of data. So I guess, so we're looking for people to join the data team. Let me just.
Okay. Asking all the folks, whether you're in the room or online, it certainly would be a good, helpful thing if we do this kind of nationwide.
Yeah, so we're, I'm just trying to see my, oh, there's my controls. I gotta switch to that PowerPoint slide.
Very good. Yeah, there's nothing like data when talking to folks.
So basically there's three kinds of volunteers we're looking for. If you to join, just, this is something that Aaron put together. You can send an email to me. They gave me a new myeva.org email address, or you can click there to join the team. And mostly I talked about the data collectors, people who are just gonna, you know, keep the data up to date. But there's also going to be another team that's going to try to take the data and put it from the spreadsheet into a real database. So then it won't, I mean, at the moment, the way it would work is if people want to make an update, they just take a copy of the spreadsheet and update and highlight the changes and just send me the link, and I'll copy it into the master just to keep it from getting corrupted. But over time, a group of people are going to work and make a database. And then the last one is just whoever wants to use the data. So Aaron will continue to make the one sheet, and we'll continue to make the sheet that we have, and also look to see if there's interest, if other chapters would be interested in having, you know, the more data dense version. And so I guess I'm interested if anyone has any questions.
Okay, so questions from folks either in the room or online. Lost my chat here, so I can put something in the chat after where Bob put in the link to the
Oh,
docs.google.com.
that's a good idea. I can put this in the chat too.
Okay,
That worked.
and I know you had a few more slides in your PowerPoint there, Bob.
I
you-
did. They kind of, it's basically the same information though.
Okay, you already covered it.
Yeah, I thought it'd be better to go through it that way than the slides.
Yep, yep.
But I basically cover everything that's in the slides.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's time, I'm not, I didn't really prepare, but I could show you some legislative stuff we have on our website as well if you're interested, but I don't know if
Oh,
you want.
yeah. Yeah, what have you got in that area? Because we all know that things get spurred on by appropriate legislation, so always appreciate when people provide input to the legislators, whether it be actual data or just promoting, and so their legislators know.
Yeah, we have we put this white paper together called The Far-Reaching Benefits of Electric Vehicles.
Mhm.
And I guess we put this together during COVID times. And
Uh-huh.
basically the purpose of this document was to get our legislature, to the Maryland legislature, to give incentives, to continue to give $3,000 incentive basically. So this goes through and it says like, there's a certain benefit for the owner. There's a benefit to society for EVs, and there's a benefit to the electric system. Basically said that every EV on the road gives societal benefits of $17,000. And then the document goes through and kind of breaks it down to say how all that was arrived at.
So did you say that Maryland has a 3,000? That's in addition to the federal 7,500?
Yeah, but then this is still a few years old, but that's true. In the beginning, it wasn't. It was for everybody. You could do it 2 times with 2 different cars, but now it depends on the cost of the car and also the income of the person. It's
Okay. Well, as it happens to be, one of our members and his wife just moved from Texas to Maryland, so we'll be sure that
And
he.
also the other downside is that it's not funded well enough, so the money will run out after a few months.
Ah,
I mean, it's kind of a good problem that there's enough vehicles that it goes through the money.
mm,
And this is the short. This is the 1-pager for that. It takes all that information. Whereas in Texas, you guys sell a lot of oil, but we're the ones who end up buying it. So we send a bunch of money out every year. It just goes through again the health benefits, and we take this and we put it to the back of legislation, and we talk about the different legislation that we want to pass. So we actually, a lot of us actually go to the state capitol and give testimony for these different bills.
that's great. That's so important. Yeah.
And then we have just common we have to update some of the other parts of our website, but. I know, does anybody in your chapter involved in policy or legislation?
We do, so one of our officers, Kevin, is often, he's not here tonight, but often emphasizing, yeah, that we need to communicate to legislature in Austin on state matters. And I know some other folks that are doing that, and then there's some on the national scale as well. But yeah, that's so important. And of course, we've all seen over the last year plus just how much the IRA legislation has really caused a lot of companies to change where they're building their EVs and what type and where they're sourcing their materials. I mean, it's just made a huge difference. And so, hopefully that'll all bring good things going forward. Just getting EVs in the hands of more people, getting the costs of them down, as was mentioned by Casey about the costs. And then, yeah, just trying to create the future that we want. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a great, we had a problem in Maryland that for multifamily dwellings, in certain cases, they had a demand charge for the electricity.
Mhm.
And now we've had success after a year and a half. The Public Service Commission has ordered the utilities to provide tariffs for multi-unit dwellings that are roughly equal to a residential rate. Just so
Oh.
that's fair. So that was one of the things that we were able to a success that we had just recently.
That's great, because yeah, demand charges can mess things up so much. I remember reading about I think it was a dentist in Florida that wanted to provide charging. And of course, people would come during the daytime and you'd have a couple of cars plug in, and all of a sudden the demand charges would hit, even after he'd put in efficient windows and efficient lights and everything else to keep consumption down. The fact that there were customers plugging in EVs all of a sudden caused those demand charges to kick in, which kind of negated the whole project. So yeah, that's something to be aware of. And that's
Yeah,
the
it is.
information that I
It
like,
is.
you know, us to spread around, folks that are presenting like you, members in the club to each other, so on. Yeah.
I had thought only level 3 chargers would have demand charges, but it turns out that just a bank, at least in certain utility spaces, just three level 2s were enough. If they're all used at once, and
Yeah.
then they weren't used much after that. So it wasn't a lot of electricity in the month, but a big spike that made
Right. That's the spike that
like
that
80
draws
cents
in
a
those
kilowatt hour.
demand charges and the utilities like that, because that means more cash in their pocket. So did you have a question? Yeah.
Hi, Bob. My name's Robert Rolnick. I'm also maintaining a very modest database, trying to keep track of all the new manufactured EVs. So I've got actually two questions. One is really kind of into the weeds as far as the database is concerned. When you collect data for the kilowatt hours that the batteries are for each of these car models, sometimes there are two numbers. There's a number that the manufacturer will report and is actually displayed to your dashboard. And then there might be another number, which is perhaps a little larger, includes a small buffer that they're not telling you about, but maybe you have a few miles extra after you hit zero. Which of those numbers do you try to report in your database?
We have a field for both of them.
Okay.
And so the way I'm thinking about it, so we try to capture all the data, and then we let the people who are going to present it decide how to, you know, which one to use or how to present that.
All right. And then I got a second question on the demand charges, which is very fascinating to me because I study the infrastructure, and if you can avoid building out more transmission lines, transformers, you name it, these towers that recently got toppled because we had a derecho here in Texas, every piece of hardware you have out there could potentially fall over and needs maintenance. Having said that, demand charges, as far as I'm aware, try to keep people to stay within a limit so you don't have to upgrade the transformers, or which are a little bit like hen's teeth to try to procure. So having said that, our last speaker talked a little bit about energy management. And I wonder, in Maryland, have you heard of, gosh, any way, I imagine these demand charges happen at night. People want to charge at night. Is there any way within the apartments, within the charging infrastructure that they have, the level 2s, to somehow stage the charging so that people aren't simultaneously grabbing all the juice at the same time? Maybe pause for a little bit and maybe lower the amps, just kind of flatten it out.
I have two. I have an interesting. One of our utilities recently used a company called WeaveGrid. Have you heard of them?
Yes.
So what they did was they were able to, if you signed up for this program, they were able to control the car when the car charged or not. And they did one test where they made the cars charge at nighttime. So the way it worked was if you're in the program and you have an EV, you would say when you want to use your EV. Like if you have to leave at 6 a.m., you'd write that down, and they would take that into account, and they wouldn't interfere with your program. So they would charge, you know, for the most people, they charge at night then. Then they did a second test where they would look at how much the electricity was costing the utility. And then they'd had the cars charged at the cheapest part, like in the middle of the night. But then the final test they did was they found people who were living near each other, and they would stagger it so that if they're all in the same transformer, they were able to stagger the people so so it wouldn't hit the transformer. So that was their final test, and that just happened now. It's still a trial going on, but I think it worked well enough that maybe make it permanent. Especially as we go to the future, I do think that is an issue. But on the other side, for the demand charges, I mean, the demand charges are really a tariff. It was put together for those reasons, like to try to incentivize people not to use electricity. I guess if you're going to have a certain demand, the utility had to put a certain amount of equipment in to match that demand. And if you don't use enough electricity, they don't want to put all this transformers in, and you have this big demand one day, and then you don't use any electricity the rest of the month. They need some way to get that money back. So the demand charge kind of covers that. But in these MUDs, in these multi-unit dwellings, when people are charging at night, there is no real electricity is cheap. There's no real demand on the actual facilities. It's just that I think demand charges were made for factories, and the load curves of MUDs don't really fit. So
Yeah, and I also think demand charges have been around quite a while. I haven't actually looked it up, but I think from the days when there was no capability of putting batteries on the grid to balance out, the demand and so forth. Whereas now you have companies that, you can buy a charging system to put out in a parking lot somewhere, and it's buffered with a battery so it doesn't trigger the demand charges. But I do believe demand charges go way back. Like you say, if there's a spike and some power is used once a month and then hardly any, how's the power company gonna pay for those transformers and everything that got the power out to that location?
yeah, and every utility has their own tariff, so demand charges are really different. Every utility has their own demand charge.
Everything's different. Yep, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I remember one interesting story. I also belonged to the Houston Renewable Energy Group, and one time they had a speaker, and the speaker was a real estate lawyer. And I thought, gee, that's kind of strange for a renewable energy group to have. And what he said was that the hottest properties were 1 acre next to a substation, because you had all these people, they saw the batteries coming, and they would get that acre of land and put the batteries there next to the substation, and basically they'd buy low and sell high and try to balance it out. And yeah, as I say, the demand charges come from the day when there was no balancing out. Everything was just purely power generated to meet the instantaneous demand. And so, yeah, I think it's a whole new world. Things are changing. But as you say, the tariffs can be different every place in the country, and you've got to watch out for those demand charges where they do still exist. Yeah.
But going back to the database that you talked about that you're maintaining, we should join forces.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll get in touch.
There you go. So,
Yeah, I had a quick question. I know while everyone's talking about electric, I was just wondering, are you also doing some research with respect to hybrid engines in general?
You mean plug-in hybrid electric vehicles?
Yes.
Well, we in our info sheet we capture the.
I mean, yes, the price wise, yes, but I'm just saying like a white paper on hybrids and its future.
No, I mean, we haven't done anything.
Okay, so thank you.
okay. Yeah, there's all kinds of things that would be nice to have white papers on to discuss all these different points. So yeah, that's something left to the reader to discover whether, or do it themselves, do some research and such, because yeah, as I said, in one sense, they're more efficient in that with a limited battery cell supply, you could build 10 cars that have 1/10 the battery of a full BEV, battery electric vehicle, and then you've got 10 drivers driving around most of the time. I mean, rarely does any given car drive its full 200, 300 miles. Every car drives its first mile every day first. And so, yeah, you could certainly argue that way. And other folks say, well, that's just a crutch and we all need to go directly to BEVs. And both sides have points. So yeah, a white paper would bring out some of that data. That would be good. Yeah.
Maybe one additional use case is just for that person who's in an apartment complex that doesn't yet have charging, but may have charging soon.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they can charge at work, but maybe they still don't. That's not enough for them to feel confident.
Right. And of course, it can be a chicken and egg kind of thing that the apartment complex, until they've got some tenants that have EVs, aren't going to. And so by having a PHEV, you can at least drive on gasoline, because most people, of course, their biggest concern is getting back and forth to work. The secondary is what powers their car. But yeah, and then some folks, they'll live in an apartment without charging and go to a public larger charging station once a week if that meets their needs and so forth. So yeah, lots of different ways to take care of that. This is great, Bob. So any other folks want to put something in the chat or ask a question live? Yes, Robert, do you want to grab the microphone here? Lots of Roberts and Bobs tonight.
Welcome, Bob. Thank you for coming. Question. Okay, we always there was the old saw. Okay, where you're just switching the emissions from the tailpipe to the smokestack. What is your chapter doing to promote renewable energy, solar, wind, efficiency, conservation, etc.?
A lot of our members have solar panels.
Mhm.
And we participate there's a yearly solar tour where people go and they look at people's houses, and a lot of times we'll bring our EVs out to the houses if they want. We have community solar. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, that's great. Always, yeah.
So there's a community solar company, we partner with them. And if they go through our website, then we get a small kickback.
Oh, even
You know, so we have a page about solar, community solar.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise we don't do much more besides that.
Okay. Yeah, there used to be more solar tour activity here in Houston. It's kind of died down a little bit. We'll see if it comes back again, but great to promote that. And yeah, some of the folks who've been around in the club here know a little bit that our first BEV is got the name EV plus PV. Yeah, and of course the story is, you know, which do you get first, the EV or the PV? Because so many folks get the other after they get the first of those two. So great to hear that that's happening in the DC area as well. Yeah. Good.
And maybe one difference between our chapter and lots of other ones is we cover Maryland, District of Columbia, and Northern Virginia. We talked about the guys from Richmond. We work closely with them because we kind of do the northern part. They do the southern part.
Okay.
Just because it's too far for the northern guys to drive all the way down to Richmond, and we're, you know, just across the river.
Yeah, the distance problem is also here in Houston, and so this location is relatively central, but yeah, we know it's always a problem to get people to come across. And yeah, just earlier today, somebody was saying, yeah, the county that Houston is in, it's about the size of Connecticut. So, you know, you're driving across the state of Connecticut. Yeah, so that yeah. All right. So we've got your contact info. Anybody in the club who wants to can contact Bob and the other members there in DC. That's great. And of course, go to Facebook, as Colin mentioned. Yeah. So that's a good thing to groups on Facebook is a good thing. Yeah. So, all right. So
Yeah, thanks for having me.
yeah, thanks for, and then Jim is going to talk data here in a second. So I think you'll like this too, Bob.
Okay,
So
sure.
thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So Jim, so glad to have you come and tell us some more data again. Come on up here. So you've got that one slide. And
Yeah, thank you, Dave. I mailed the slide to you and Colin. Is it retrievable or?
Can you pull that up, Colin?
I don't.
Let me pull it up while
You're
you're.
gonna have a better shot at it. I can't get to it.
You can start.
All right, sure. Just a little reminder, I gave an address to the club most recently in August of 23. And it was on choosing an REP, a retail electric provider, to complement your EV. And as just was mentioned, there's a strong correlation between solar and EV ownership. And a lot of times when you have those two commodities, you also are thinking about, where am I getting my electricity from? I want to not overpay, and I want to make sure it makes sense in an environmental sense, probably. So I did some research and found all the providers that offer some sort of plan that relies on your solar and gives you a deal if you tie in your solar, or relies on your EV and coordinates charging for your EV certain times of day. They give you an enhanced rate in terms of cents per kilowatt hour that you download from the grid. And of course, a lot of these REPs we look favorably on if they offer some sort of net metering. And net metering has been evolving, at least in Texas, and it's no longer one for one. It's in fact very hard to find now. So what I got involved with was a program that was a VPP, or a virtual power plant. And I was with one that's been put together by Tesla Electric, which is fairly new in the last 2 years, REP, retail electric provider in Texas. Well, the way that VPP operates is that, well, they've got two different main categories. One, if you have an electric vehicle, it might be Tesla restricted, but I'm not sure about that. And another one is if you have a Tesla Powerwall or more than one. So that's the very interesting one. That's the one that I happen to participate in. I'm still in it. With the VPP, or virtual power plant, they pool all the participating Tesla Powerwall owners, and then they can pull power from your battery when they can sell it at a favorable price into the grid. So it's a variation on net metering, which I took advantage of for a few years with just solar, but now I've got the solar and the battery. In that case, it's worked out very favorably. When this first was announced, there were wild postings on LinkedIn and X, and well, I'm making a fortune on this VPP. I don't know that those were very true. Maybe for a day or an hour somebody did. But what I'm going to show today is, now that last month, in May, I completed 12 months of membership, or 12 months of participation in the Tesla Electric virtual power plant. And to whet your appetite, most of the months that I was in the program, I had a zero electric bill because I had built up credits. And don't forget, that includes, for those who are familiar here in the Houston area or in Texas, the heat dome that settled over Texas and gave us 95 and 100-degree Fahrenheit days for weeks on end in July, August, and into September. And if you didn't have any protection from solar or backup batteries that would allowed you to time shift the expense of pulling from the grid, I had a lot of friends who had $500 a month electric bills. I'm assuming I would have too. Instead, I had $0 electric bills. At the end of the year, once a year, the Tesla Electric VPP allows you to cash out, your accumulated credits. So at having just completed my year in May, I built a little 12-line spreadsheet that showed how much I was billed each month, how much I actually had to pay. And I love getting my bills because they tend to be negative. Now, if you have a negative bill, you don't immediately get that money, but at the end of a year, you get the net. So for a few months, I had a positive bill. I think my highest one was $95. But I had so many negative bills. At the end of the year, for the year, my electric bill for powering my house from the ERCOT grid was $18. Let that sink in. So,
How big is your house?
2,500 foot, 1 story, 1960 ranch, 4 bedrooms.
Can I connect the extension cord to your house?
So this is a bit of arbitrage. It's all powered by Tesla's AI system. They monitor the prices, which are posted every 15 minutes on the ERCOT grid. And when prices are low, they allow your battery to accumulate energy. And when prices are high, and that might only be for as little as a 15-minute interval, or 4 or 10 15-minute intervals per day. But when the prices spike, they can then pull from your battery and sell into the grid at these exaggerated prices, and do really well on your benefit, and also for all the other Tesla Powerwall owners that have subscribed to the VPP. I had my Powerwalls, I have 3, for maybe half a year. And I started hearing about the VPP, and I finally did a little due diligence to say, this is worth trying. You can get out anytime. There's no cost to, you can get out any month, and there's no cost to join. So if you're not satisfied with it, you can, exit. And I have a 1-slide PowerPoint that Dave is trying to find here. I feel for him.
Oh,
look. Okay.
Here we go. It's here.
Ah, that's it.
Yeah. Hey, Jim, is your house all electric or is it gas?
I have some gas. My furnace is gas. Trying to think, I have a gas range in the kitchen. A couple years ago, when my washer dryer combo died, I pulled out the gas one and put in an electric one. It was actually the same model, but they were sold it both ways.
By the way, how many cycles did your 3 batteries go through during the 12-month period? In other words, top to bottom, did you go through an entire battery during the course of an average day, or did you go to 2 batteries? Or, I mean, it pulls in and then it discharges. Does it go through an entire cycle?
Yeah, good point. Yeah, you can set a floor level that you don't want your battery to be drawn down below. And they will not let you set up below 20, or they'll give you a red warning if you try to set up below 20. So mine's set at 20. I don't know how many cycles. I mean, it varied by time of year. Again, prices around here mainly spike late afternoon, early evening. So that's when they pull down your battery. Then at night, it can get all charged up.
Okay, so was saying loading for a long time. Now we've got it on the screen.
All right. Now we just need those lights to go out again. All right, it's a little difficult to read. On the left side of the screen in that black box is
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I tried to enlarge it, then I lost it.
Oh. Thank you, sir. Anyway, on the left side, you'll see in a moment a black box on the screen that is just a screen capture from the Tesla electric app, which is part of the overall Tesla app that your car uses. And it just shows the running statements, your billing statements for the 12 months. And then we'll see on the left side of the screen, when it comes up in a moment, the spreadsheet entries that I put together, which are a little more readable. So this series begins in May of 2023. That's when I became a member of the VPP. And you can see that first month I had to pay $32 for my electric bill for this $2,500 house, 25 square foot house. And then the next month went up a bit. Then I started getting negative bills. Well, first one was negative $2.28. That's pretty cool. I like that. And the next one was negative $130. Now this is a rolling total. The next month was negative 457. Okay, I won't read all these to you. I hope you can see them. And you can see the trend here. So at the bottom of the rows, the last 2 months are March and April, the 11th and 12th month of my first year. And you can see at the end that my cumulative bill was negative $109.17. As I mentioned a minute ago, every 12 months, you can pull your balance out if it's negative, or depending how you look at it, if it's favorable. And then I just had to specify a checking account, and they did an EFT into my checking account of that $109. So if you add up what I paid the first 2 months and what I got back on the last month, my net bill for the year, $18.77. So I feel like it was a successful experiment. Question? Wait, 1 second. Can I stop you a second? There's a mic up here. Would you mind picking it up? Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm sorry I'm late, but what's the startup for what you're talking about? I'm just trying to catch up here.
All right.
As far as getting, because I'm seeing that this is you're $18, but if the startup's going to cost you, a lot of money, a lot of people won't do it. And you're talking about a wall unit to hook up to your house. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. To buy the batteries, the 3 batteries. At the time, I think they were selling for close to $7,000 a piece, or $6,800. And this VPP plan didn't exist then, at least not publicly. It might have been in the mind of somebody within a Tesla organization. I was willing to pay that because I would get a 30% federal tax credit, not a deduction, but a tax credit for the total of the battery system, because it was connected to a solar system. You probably have heard that solar systems qualify for the 30% tax credit, as do batteries, again, if they're connected to solar. So that greatly reduced my investment. And what it gave me was peace of mind. I don't know how long you've been lucky enough to live here, but we have, I don't know about your neighborhood, but we have outages all the time. I live in Southwest Houston. We had one yesterday. It was only about an hour. We had one for 12 hours a couple of weeks ago when the derecho came through. But I never saw it in that the batteries switch on and take over the power to the house in milliseconds. I mean, you don't even have to go around and reset your clocks. You don't even notice that takeover has changed, that you're now getting powered by your batteries versus the grid or the non-working grid. It's a long answer. Were you asking how much I invested in the initially? Okay.
Yeah. So you're running your whole house, on the batteries, correct?
Yes. Oh, yeah. That's a good point. That's why I have 3 power walls. So I have full house powering.
You have to have solar first, or?
You don't have to, no. You don't have to have it at all. But the two work together in a very good coordinated way. The solar charges up your battery, and then at night, you can also do some more charging of the battery from the grid. But there are rules about how much you can use the grid to charge your battery. And what I occasionally get on my Tesla app is that the grid is now charging your battery to full because you're in a storm watch area. Storms are predicted, so they will work without you having to do anything. They will work to fill up your battery because a storm is approaching your area. You could do this program with one battery, one power wall.
Have you heard of base power out of
Yes.
Austin? Yeah, that's an interesting approach. Would you talk about that a little bit?
I'm not sure I'm fully prepared to talk about base power, but I have.
Me either.
I have a friend who's talking to them about joining in. Here's their catchphrase, paraphrased. They will install a backup battery into your home for $2,000, but they own it. You just paid $2,000 for the install. And then they manage it in a big virtual power plant. And I didn't really go into what a virtual power plant is, but or did I? It's the collection of multiple battery owners and homes and probably small businesses in a certain area that have agreed to collectively share their battery into the virtual power plant. So they collectively make up the equivalent of a peaker plant, a gas peaker plant, just coming off the batteries.
Yeah, that's really interesting because of course, yeah, the capital to have a system is a big hindrance for a lot of people.
I agree.
It's interesting that that company came up with a business model. They're gonna use your roof, for example, you get some benefit, they get some benefit, and they're the ones putting in most of the capital.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, and what you supposedly you get a smaller electric bill,
Right.
but the main reason to buy is that you have a battery backup. And what they get is that they don't have to build they're using your property and your connection,
Right.
and they don't have to build a utility scale battery. Yeah.
Right.
And it's distributed all over, because if they were to build a solar farm, all the power would be available at one spot, whereas the houses are distributed across the whole city.
Yeah, I haven't read the details. I have no idea if if the contract is favorable or not, but it's a fascinating idea.
Yeah.
Great concept.
So I just did a big back of the envelope calculation. Roughly 21,000 is your entry fee to get into this. You basically face pretty much zero electricity bills, at least if the program can continue with these kind of arbitrage situations. Now that can always change because maybe there's more of these VPPs and batteries on the grid 4 or 5 years from now, but it sounds like a winner to get this and not pay any electric bills basically for the course of a year, at least at this scale. Having said that, that's assuming that the batteries can be run for 15 years at its current pace, maybe 20 years without wearing down or needing replacement. But having said that, can you tell me if there is an outage, a hurricane blows through and now you're knocked off the grid or otherwise disconnected because of a general blackout, you can't push more juice into the grid because it's, blackout, I guess. Can you run your house and be islanded off the grid?
Yes, I can. I don't do it all full time, but during the famous February 2021 winter storm that knocked power out for 4 to 7 days, depending on what part of the city you're in, I was able to run off of batteries and solar. Now you have to take some steps to cut your electricity usage in those situations and monitor things. I learned a lesson, and this was part of another talk I gave to this group, that in the summer, you can adjust your air conditioning. So instead of keeping it at 72 or whatever your house requires, you maybe make it 75 or 78 to get through this period of grid outage. In the winter, though, if you have a swimming pool, which I do have, it's automatically going to run your pumps, the main pump and the auxiliary pump, and the lighting in the pool, and occasionally the heater, to keep all the plumbing from freezing during a freeze. So on any winter day, outage or not, once the temperature drops below about 38, my pool pump kicks on, my cleaner pump, auxiliary pump kicks on, the lights in the pool kick on, the electric aerator kicks on, and they trade off positions. They're not, each one of them's not on 100%. And this keeps, again, the exposed PVC pipes that could freeze in the winter, keeps them all going. But that uses a lot of juice. I've learned to keep an eye on what the power consumption is in my house. Background is about half a kilowatt for internet and everything else that's going, a few lights, maybe the fridge. Add 3 kilowatts to that for when the air conditioning is going, add another 3 kilowatts to that for when the pool is in normal pump mode. But when the full bore, everything you have as part of the pool plumbing is operating, then that's like another 4 or 5 kilowatts. And you can't control it. And you don't want to turn it off. You don't want stuff to freeze. So that was one of the challenges when we had no power during a very cold period.
So that's before you were engaged with Tesla Electric on the VPP. Now that you're on the VPP, if you had another event like that, does Tesla basically step out of the loop and let you run your house, or do they control it or keep it in reserve in some way in case power to the grid is back online? I mean, I don't know what happens in that situation.
I don't know. I don't know. Tesla, though, has been very good about keeping me informed about what they're doing. And they do have this bracket that they won't allow you to charge above or drop below. So, and the system's been a success in its first year, in my experience. I don't know if that's going to be around in 3 years or next month, but so far, so good.
Or if other companies come on, like the
Right.
power company and offer the same thing.
And yeah, Octopus is doing something similar, I believe, aren't they? Octopus?
Yeah, when I did this, they weren't quite ready for prime time, but they are getting there.
Because there's a lot of folks, I mean, I was at a lunch yesterday with friends of friends, and they were talking about how much money they were putting in for a generator system. All the copper and getting the natural gas running, and that's just providing you backup. I mean, it's not providing you anything that you don't have, it's just during outages. And so people are spending, $20,000 on that, and they have to maintain it so that it's gonna run when the power is off. So you've got a system that, yes, you gotta put money into, but it's providing you not only that backup power, like I said, other folks are spending lots of money just for
Right.
backup. It can provide this ability to buy low and sell high. and
Right,
with
right.
Negative bills, whereas that guy with the generator burning natural gas is never gonna be able to do.
You can't convince people not to buy a generator.
Yeah.
But if you try and tell them that, look, that is a large sunk cost that will never pay you back a nickel.
Yeah.
And yeah, it will provide you backup a few days a year, most years.
Yeah.
But
If
is
it's
it
maintained so that it
and-
comes on.
and then you have to have a maintenance contract, which is not free.
Right.
And most of them run on natural gas, and that's a very expensive way to generate electricity for your house. Otherwise, we'd all be running generators off our gas lines. It's just hard to make it make sense. And if you live, most of us probably live in neighborhoods where there are generators, they stink and they're noisy.
Yeah, I like the comments that the president of the Tesla Owners Club of Houston has made. The only time that he knows that he's on his batteries is when he hears his neighbor's generator kick on.
Yes, that's yeah.
The power's out in the neighborhood.
I have one right behind me.
Otherwise,
Yeah. I have one right behind me. I also hear them when they're doing their monthly maintenance right.
Yeah. Colin, did you yeah, with the microphone, if you can, just so our folks on the
Online.
Zoom call can also catch, we want everybody to hear.
Do you have to be part of like the Tesla system to be in this? Or is it just kind of like, I don't have a Tesla, but
Short answer, yes.
You do have to be in Tesla. Okay.
Yeah. Tesla offers this to owners of Tesla Powerwall batteries. But I think Tesla's not going to be the only game in town. Soon there'll be others offering it.
Right. So there are different companies that you can get, LG and other kinds of battery systems and so forth. If you want to have just the other companies are on the market. Yes, they're out there. This is kind of integrated in that Tesla provides the power walls. You can buy from Tesla the solar panels on your roof, and they have this app, and you can use them as your retail electric provider. So since we're in the deregulated part of Texas, because certain towns in Texas this doesn't apply to, we're deregulated. All of us have to pick a retail electric provider. And of course, they're all competing with each other, and they give you different bonuses and these kinds of things. So this is kind of relatively new. It does require that you have the Tesla Powerwall, because that's what the basis of it is. So, but Tesla is now a retail electric provider. So it's an option. I mean, money and so forth, the cost of getting in, but then your benefits, having power. Some people have medical conditions. They really need to have power.
Startup, you said the startup is about 20.
Yeah, it was for me. I don't know what the current prices are, if they're higher or lower.
Yeah. And it depends on how extensive of a system. So Jim happens to have a pool at his house. So, that he wants a system that's going to take care of a smaller house, one Powerwall battery, which you said were what, 7,000, 9,000?
When I bought them, they were just under 7,000. And also, if you buy a smaller system, like one Powerwall, you can then dedicate certain circuits in your house to be backed up. And so you might want to have a refrigerator or an air conditioner, or not. Actually, air conditioner is such a big draw. You might want to get a window unit for when there are blackouts. Just throwing that out there. So to conserve costs, you can go with one battery or two. I went with three because I needed that. I have a household member who has a medical condition that is triggered by heat. Imagine living in Texas. So to make sure we have AC through grid outages, I got the 3 power walls and we have full home backup.
Yeah. So it takes money, but you can do things at different levels. And like with a lot of other technologies, we're seeing prices come down over time, and hopefully it'll get to be, I mean, just like air conditioning, you don't ask if a house has air conditioning, just like buying a house or a car. So yeah, Charlie.
Any idea how different the numbers would be if you only had 1 or 2 power walls?
No.
Yeah, so he's got his experience and we can learn from that, but maybe someone else in the future will sign up and have just one Powerwall.
All right, I had a favorable experience. I don't know how much my electric bills would have been without the VPP. I'm thinking they would have been on the order of $5,000 or $6,000 for the year. Well, $4,000 to $5,000 for the year. High months for me were around 500 and low months were around 300.
Yes, how soon will you the payoff in a number of years? How soon will that be?
I don't know. And that's a hot button for me. Do you ask what the payout is when you do other home improvements, such as install a pool, redo your kitchen, renovate, add on a bedroom?
Yeah.
And that said, I know the number. Before I got in the VPP, my payout was going to be about 7 years. And then after that, it's gravy. You're making money year after year. Now the payout time is cut in half or less.
Yeah. And as you say, keeping medical situations under control is priceless, as they say.
Had to have that backup.
Yeah. Yeah. So that, yeah, it's just good that these systems exist. And now that Tesla is a rep, it gives you an option of how to choose them as a rep. Yeah.
Right.
So, all right.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that the Cybertruck and many other vehicles, you can tap that battery. The Cybertruck has a power share that comes with it. I mean, and you get 11 kilowatts of power out of it. That's good. It's good. And I'm not strictly Tesla. There's other players of the Ford's doing it. Yeah. It's going to be I mean, that battery pack is going to be usable and so I couldn't help but in that the HO, I could not help but tap my Model Y and my Model X. And how did I do that? I ran to Home Depot and I bought a inverter, 1,000-watt worksite inverter, connected it directly to the 12-volt battery. On the Model X is a 2018. It did not complain. Kept the refrigerator on, kept a couple fans going, kept the internet on. It was great. And then the Model Y is a 2020. It's complained. It said something's not right here, and eventually it said your low voltage battery is bad.
Oh.
They had just changed the battery in March, so I thought probably not. So when the week was over, I took it in. They replaced it under warranty, and they said it was a faulty battery. I think it's a bit of a coincidence.
Whoa.
Yeah, but Kevin is gonna try the same setup using just the cigarette lighter adapter to keep a battery charged to see what happens. So he bought a battery, one of those battery generators, and he's going to play around with to see what happens when he does that. So that's the cheap way out of
with an inverter.
Yeah, yeah.
So then you run a cord from the car and the inverter, and then plug different utilities or appliances into a long extension cord.
Exactly. Yeah, I had lots of time.
Yeah. Now, if you had the Cybertruck and some of the other vehicles that have power out from the big battery, you would have to get a transfer switch installed in your house.
They call it a power share. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
but
the commercial name that
I know one James May, the guy with the Cybertruck, he had it installed, and it actually at this point it comes with the vehicle.
All right.
I mean, you pay for installation or something to that effect, but I think this is a big deal about EVs. I mean, this ability to share between the Powerwall, the vehicle, and you've never had this ability before.
Right.
It's I think it is incredibly important and a big selling.
Consider that an individual Powerwall is 0.6 kilowatt hours. So my 3 are 40, but my car has 100 kilowatt hour battery in it. That needs to be tapped somehow.
Exactly.
Okay, good. Other questions, comments? Again, lost my.
Yeah, can you hear me online?
Yes, Emma.
This is Emma. Hey, Jim, thanks for the update on your 1 year of Tesla VPP.
Welcome. Thank you.
And I appreciate you sharing data with me about your experience. I still haven't made up my mind as to if I will switch over, because I then might lose out on rejoining the Green Mountain deal that I have. But I'm still tempted and may pick your brain a little more with and ask for some more data to crunch. It's a little hard to compare between, your system and my system, even though we both have 3 Powerwalls, just kind of a different, yeah. But yeah, thank you. Appreciate the update. And I don't know, Colin, did you ever figure out how to use the vehicle to load on your daughter's car? Were you able to get that to work?
Yeah, so Emma has demonstrated her vehicle to load adapter on her, what is it?
Ionic 5.
Ionic 5. And my daughters both got a 2024 Hyundai Kona electric. So, and one of them is they say has that ability, but it did not work, and that spot in the menu it's in the manual, but it's not in the menu. So I think they got a software issue, and I haven't been able to get anybody to figure that out yet. But
Right.
yeah. So
It could be a software issue, like you said, or it could be, I can't remember if all the trim levels of the Ionic 5 can do the vehicle to load, so it may depend on the trim level.
It does.
That's just a guess. Anyway.
Yeah, it does. So only
Oh,
the
okay.
limited has it, and one of those Konas is a limited, so it should do it.
Yeah, I would
can't-
imagine the limited should.
The dealers out of not been useful, and yeah, it's same old story. We have to figure it out ourselves.
So I see that Jim Tucker has wrote in the chat here, I think the 20K was for the batteries only, 7K of rooftop PV would double that in addition to the electrician's charges. So just referring to the cost of your system.
Oh, right. Yeah. You don't have to have the rooftop panels to get into the VPP.
Yeah, the battery is the essential thing.
Right.
That's what is powering the
And
retail electric providers system in this case. Yeah.
right.
Okay, and Robert?
So the chemistry for the Powerwalls, I think, tends to be different than the Model X that I'm familiar with. Maybe it's more robust, maybe it's LFP. Certainly it doesn't get vibrated around as much as in a car. So, and doesn't get charged so aggressively as we would do at a level 3 charger. So having said that, is the warranty period for the Powerwalls somewhat more beefy than for a car's battery?
Well, the car's battery is 8 years. I don't know what it is for the Powerwall, top of my head. Sorry.
Something to look up.
Yeah.
Okay. Questions, comments? So here we are in June, and different things will be coming up here over the summer and potentially in September.
Thank you.
Another question? No? Okay, thanks. Yeah. Thanks, Jim. Yeah.
Let me just answer the question. Nick, it looks like you just looked it up and it's 10 years warranty on the
10-year
Powerwall.
warranty on the Powerwalls. Okay.
Maybe
Good.
there's a limitation on how many cycles, but 10 years seems pretty generous.
Okay. Okay. Another.
I found the pricing online real quick too. They're starting at 11,500 installed from Tesla
Okay.
and $9,200 if you just buy it.
Mm.
And they seem to discount it the more you buy. So
Okay. And they have gone through different versions, right, of Powerwalls. Now version 3 has the inverters included in them. So yeah, another comment, please, in the mic.
I was just curious. I don't know if you guys, one thing I've noticed about the EVs now is when you have dealerships, is the club or is the club being talked to these dealerships? Because when I go to some dealerships, they know nothing about EVs. They'll try to sell you an EV, but when you really ask them about it, they don't know. And I think it would be great to give them, each dealership that sells EVs, a card, so they know who to call and who to talk to.
Oh, yeah,
That's a suggestion. And
Thanks.
also, can you
Yeah.
give me an update on the charging station downtown?
The charging station.
It's supposed to be like a charging station on at the post downtown, a large. Okay.
I just did what I've seen.
Okay.
Oh, great on that
And it's
part. Yeah.
available for non-Tesla.
Okay, so I took a real close look at that
Okay.
about a month ago, and
Okay.
I was told at the time, oh, we think May 15th is when they're going to have it completed. And they had literally 24 level 3 version 4 superchargers
Wow.
and another 24 level 2 chargers, all with tape and plastic wrap around them. They had a little corral where they had the inverters all set up, maybe some of them. There's some empty pads of concrete there. Clearly, they're waiting for some more equipment, maybe transformers, I don't know. But this site is huge. And it does have the Magic Dock, which allows cars other than the Teslas to charge. So you're going to have 24 of these things. They have very long cables because they're the 4th version of the supercharger. And so there's going to be enormous amounts of space where people won't get tangled up with their cables. Everybody has different corners where you have a hatch to charge from. And so you're not going to have weird situations where you have to occupy 2 parking spaces if you're driving a Ford F-150. So that I was just there today, literally asked one of the people who kind of are more frequently there and thought she might know. And she said, she doesn't know, and maybe she'll let me know and find out. Another lady drives a Hyundai Kona, I think, and she's been very much waiting for the thing to show up. This is where she offices. So without even the level 3s available, you got nothing. And she was in an apartment complex, so which does not supply overnight charging. So she has to live off the land. This would be ideal for her, but it's been sitting there kind of. It looks like the lights are on, but nobody's home. I mean, you can't charge.
Yeah.
So the question is, level 3 is the fastest you can charge today. I think 350 is what the non-Teslas will charge at, 350 kilowatts. The normal Tesla superchargers go to 250 kilowatts, which is damn fast. Not quite as fast as gasoline, but that's level 3. Level 2 is far less robust, maybe gives you about 10 kilowatts. So if you're there all day, if you're there for a job, you can just sit there and park and it's no big deal. So that's the difference between level 3 and level 2.
Yep. Great. Thank you. And back to the first part of your question about dealers. Yeah, we've been interacting with dealers. Robert, our vice president, and I went to one dealer and we were educating the salespeople about the cars that they had. It really comes down to whether that dealer is interested in selling EVs or not. And this kind of goes back to Casey at Evolve, because there were some years back when the Houston Auto Show, which is put on by the Dealers Association, would not allow. In fact, one person tried to bring an EV and they were forced to remove it from the building. And so things are improved now that Evolve is the sponsor of EVs there. And different dealerships, some like selling EVs, they have educated people, and some are going to fight them tooth and nail until the end of time. Tesla as a company is not there, but
they're not allowed. because they do not approve of their no dealership. Yeah.
Right. And the way that some Teslas have shown up there is because there are third-party companies that do special modifications of vehicles and so forth, and they'll modify any vehicle that they can get their hands on. And so, yeah, it gets to be a really complex situation. Of course, so that's one EV maker, but now the other EVs are there. They're available for test drives at the Houston Auto Show. And as Casey said, they'll do that again this next year. It comes down to the individual dealer. I've been down to one, I believe, in Sugar Land, Chevy Classic Cars of Houston, even though they're in Sugar Land. They would have 35 bolts, all different colors and outfittings, because they really wanted to sell EVs for their manufacturer. Yeah. Uber and Lyft are promoting EVs because they want to be seen as greener. And of course, that's one aspect. Some people like the acceleration. Some people like that you can have power from, cleaner sources of electricity. So yeah, Uber and Lyft are getting into that act because they want to be seen as greener.
FYI, Mac Icon Katie was supposedly accumulating all the bolts. This is a few months ago when I was shopping with a daughter, and they said I was a little bit surprised that they did that. They had maybe 5 or 10 of them on the lot.
Okay. Yeah. And obviously dealers are going to change. They're in business to make money, and they have to have knowledgeable people, and it costs them money to train their people. So things are going to be all over the place. Yeah. If one dealership gets to hire away somebody who's knowledgeable about EVs from another dealership, maybe from another city or something, then all of a sudden they'll want to try to sell the EVs. Whereas before they had no facilities and no trained salespeople. They weren't interested prior to that. So things can change. So Casey's here. I don't know if Casey heard the question. If you do some kind of dealer training on EVs. There's Casey.
Yeah, thanks. I did catch it. We interact quite heavily with the Automotive Dealers Association. I would tell you that it's the easy way to cut it is about a third of them are very interested in EVs. About a third of them are pretty indifferent, and another third of them would be considered kind of not in my lifetime perspectives. And so, we interact with quite a few of them. Today, or to date, we've offered a lot of training for their staffs.
Good.
Before this auto show, a lot of their perspective is that their sales turnover is so high that they weren't very interested in investing into sales training. So we've got a white paper working with the University of Houston and EY that should come out here at the end of the year that's focused on, I gave you kind of those themes that we see. Well, that profitability theme sure is starting to pique the interest of a lot of these dealers, and inventory turns are quite important to them. So we're working directly with several of them. Again, as you drive around some of these dealerships, you guys mentioned a couple of them. You're starting to see some chargers pop up at some of these, and so some of these dealers are quite interested in this, and they're trying to find a space to be competitive. And I would say continue to interact with them. We do as well, and share resources with them. I mean, at the end of the day, the hurdle that we see is after the point of sale, getting that customer comfortably home with their EV and a way to charge it is a pretty common thing.
Yeah. So folks here in the room can make it next month. And Casey, if you can make it here in person next month, then you can kind of talk more about the dealership conundrum. Yeah. So Robert.
I gotta say, having just watched the Apple big presentation about their Apple Intelligence, which, is just another version of artificial intelligence, we really could use some kind of gadget like that at the dealers for the dealers who can't be trained and they're just going to be too much of a short timer. Just talk to the Siri box and hopefully it's a little snappy and gets a clue and really is intelligent instead of whatever. Apple Intelligent, I guess that's better than artificial. So that would be, I mean, we got to get somebody some smart bot to just lay it down.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the Baytown Hyundai has 3 DC chargers for level 3. It's my understanding that to be a Hyundai dealer now, if you want to sell EVs, you gotta invest. You gotta do that. So this particular the company that owns them has 3 of them around Houston, and he said they spend $20 million on each, not on the electrical, but on the whole dealership. Each dealership costs 20 million. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Okay, so another comment?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I ran into, I don't know what they do at the rent-a-car places, but I ran into a gentleman that was, it was a couple of gentlemen that were trying to drive to Dallas. And I guess the rent-a-car people do not tell you anything about, charging the car. Because I saw them at the charging spot, and they could not figure out how to open the door. They could not figure out how to plug it in. And they were trying to drive from Houston to Dallas.
Yep.
And I don't know, if you guys know anything about what's going on with that as far as Hertz and other rent-a-car places that are renting out EVs. Are they actually educating the customer on the problems they have, especially if they're trying to drive long distance? And they were driving to Dallas, and I told them to charge up in Madisonville and then charge up when you get halfway.
Good that you
Because-
could help them out because, yeah, I mean, traditionally rental car companies get a lot of customers that they want to try a car out of any brand before they want to buy one. And so it's like no better way than to live with one for a few days. But yeah, of course, if you're not experienced with an EV and you go to a rental car company, if they don't have anybody who teaches you, or they got a line of 6 people and they're not going to take time of a half an hour to, teach somebody about a car because they've got to take care of customers, then yeah, the customers are going to go out into the wild without knowing what to do.
Do you have somebody who came to talk to us in your neighborhood who works for Hertz, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he came and talked about when they bought them all. He hasn't come back and told us when they sold them all.
Well,
They-
Emma's.
Oh, yeah, I'm online.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's my neighbor. I have actually talked to him recently, and they didn't sell them all, and they didn't sell them all here anyway. I don't know what locations of Hertz, but I did ask him to come back to talk to us
Great.
because he's even asked me about installing a EVSC in his garage because that allows him to start driving their EVs, which he usually drives their high-end kind of big SUVs home because he can as the regional director. Anyway, I did want to address what the gentleman who was just speaking asked about these rental companies, because I've heard this as well through coworkers who come visit to do work at JSC, and because they're able to find out that there's a JSC electric vehicle enthusiast club, I get messages asking, people asking me, hey, what do I do? The rental company just gave me an EV and I didn't even ask for it. And they get no education. So I've heard that a lot. I have heard though from my neighbor who, as I mentioned, is the regional director of Hertz, is that Hertz is actually, from my understanding, from what he said, actually does have informational materials that they do provide to their renters. But I would say I know for sure that Avis does not, Budget does not, and I don't know, maybe even other companies. So yeah, there is something that maybe hopefully we can do in order to help some outreach, or maybe even we develop some materials and we offer it up as to some of these companies and say, hey, to make this experience better for people who are, some of them are just interested, but some of them just luck in or luck out. It depends on your perspective, I guess, on getting an EV when you get a rental. So yeah.
Okay, Robert, did you?
Well, I was just thinking that maybe somebody could, that's entrepreneurial, make a business out of it, be a consultant to these
Yeah.
companies and say, hey, This is what I know about EVs, and I could help you with your customers so you don't have to
Yeah.
retrain your own people. And so
Mhm.
that's just an idea.
Yep, certainly sounds like it's a needed thing, yeah. Okay, all right, so this has been great. We'll kind of close it down here now. We could go on for a year, I think. But we will come back next month. I want everybody who's already here, plus more people to come in person if they can. It's always great to get that interaction in person. So yeah, you can look on our website, Facebook, get other info, and we'll be here on the second Thursday next month. Okay. Yeah, you have something, Robert?
Garage, you already mentioned that, the garage thing.
Yes, yeah, the beginning. Yep, absolutely. Nick's right here, and it got covered at the beginning, but you two can talk here now at the end in person. So, all right, thanks a lot, everybody. Bye-bye, Casey.